quite a few people on the call already, which is great, and it really I think shows the appetite for this content at the moment. Just regarding the content itself, we're looking at the body of this webinar to last about 30 minutes approximately, and then we'll have questions at the end for 15 minutes, and we'll stay on the call at the end if you have any more questions from there. Very good. So why are we doing this webinar series? I'm sure it's sort of pretty obvious to most people. We find ourselves thrust into a completely different scenario that we might not have much experience in. I think there was a stat that was going around. I saw that it said 47% of Australians and New Zealanders had no experience from working from home. So very quickly, people are having to grapple with some new tools and some new environments. So hopefully over this series, we're looking about running about six webinars in this series. We'll be covering off some of the key tips to help you with that transition. We'll be covering sort of Teams house rules, high performing teams, document management 101s, governance quick starts, and this will be focusing on Microsoft Teams specifically, and some tips and tricks for that. It's funny, I think we've all been touched in some way. We've all got sort of friends, family who have sort of been tapping us on the shoulder and saying, hey, I have to use this thing called Teams now, and I have never used it before. I think the most poignant story from my point of view is my mother, my dear mother, who's worked for the NHS for north of 30, 40 years. I was talking to her the other day, and she said, I have to use Microsoft Teams now. And I said, Mum, I've been telling you about this for years. It's my job. That's what I do. And so they're all, it's a huge culture change for them, but everybody's having to make the jump now. So who are we? My name's Jack Hendy. I'm a change and adoption consultant with Engage Squared. I've been with the company approaching 4 years now, and have worked on sort of a number of Office 365 rollouts, Yammer launches, but more recently Teams really. Some quite large Teams migrations and rollouts over the last couple of years, and we have a few on our plate at the moment. So be happy to host this session and go through the content. And Jonathan.
Hi everyone, my name is Jonathan Q. I'm also a change and adoption consultant working with Jack. Similarly to Jack, I work on a lot of Yammer and Teams adoption projects for a wide variety of industries and organizations. I'll be supporting Jack today, just helping triage any questions you have in chat, and then chiming in as well when I have some scenarios that I've seen from our clients to try to help with this webinar.
Great, thanks a lot. And so who are we? We're Engage Squared. We've multiplied our locations over the last few years. We're across Australia and New Zealand, and also based in Minsk as well. We are a Gold partner, so we work closely with Microsoft and our preferred applications specialist, Yammer and Teams. So we like to think we're talking about. We're happy to dive into this content today and answer some questions for you. What do we do? There's 4 pillars basically that make up our offerings, from digital workplaces, so your enterprise social, Yammer, the new Yammer, which we're all looking forward to, intranets more sort of centrally, business apps, these wonderful power apps that we can spin up very quickly now and can give lots of value in a very short amount of time with a little cash. Information management, so your traditional migrations of that sort of on-premises SharePoint content, records management, and more traditional stuff. And then I personally think the most fun stuff, the change adoption work that we do. Most of the time it is, with the campaigns that we run, we can really get sort of quite creative, which is what I like, and really sort of mapping out that strategy from, okay, how is everybody going to use it? Because at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. If it's not used, it's not, it's a waste. So that's us, and that's what we do. Stay tuned for this webinar series. We've already got our next one booked in, and it's on communications in a crisis. So that'll be in 2 weeks' time at the same time, and our brand new digital workplace consultant, Matt Dodd, who we're very lucky and pleased to have on our team, will be running through the barriers and opportunities in a crisis like this with communications and how technology can help. Matt's thought leader in this space, deals with intelligent intranets, and he is very big on enterprise social as well. So I'll be looking forward to that one. We're also collating and creating a working from home survival kit, which will be an ebook form, which we'll hopefully be able to distribute next week. So I think we'll send it around to everybody who's made the webinar today, and that'll be a good reference point for everyone, to grapple with the new environment we find ourselves in. So looking forward to that. Great. Now, the agenda. What are we going to be covering today? And I thought it was handy to kick off this series with some sort of Teams basics, because Teams is sort of the hub that we're sort of using to manage the digital workplace. And I sort of think, from my experience and talking with customers, these are some of the common scenarios or topics that come up. So managing the noise, how you prioritize your workload, and how you can do that with Teams. Communicating with colleagues, which is, normally quite a straightforward task, but there's a whole another bunch of sort of nuances and best practices when you throw in a platform like Teams. And then virtual meetings, which are now business critical for everybody to get right and to understand how to run them effectively from home. Very good. So kicking off straight into it, and I should say the format for this session will be sort of half and half, talking about some of these scenarios, but actually I want to jump in, because we are focusing on Microsoft Teams as a platform. I do want to jump in and actually go through some of the tips and tricks and actually say, look, how can we actually start actioning some of this stuff now? So I'll be jumping back and forth, so keep your eyes peeled. So managing the noise, this is one that constantly comes up, and from two different angles. There's some say, oh, there's not enough noise. When I say noise, it's notifications, it's emails, it's that activity that's happening on Teams. So replies to messages, instant chat messages, new conversations throughout the Teams. When Teams start transitioning off of Outlook, out of an Outlook inbox and onto the Teams platform or any other platform, and they're sort of straddling two or more platforms, and there's that sort of uneasy middle ground. Stuff can be lost. So some teams want to increase the volume, so we want to get more notifications from Teams. I'll jump in and show you how you can do that. On the other side, decreasing the volume. Being inundated can really turn people off, and especially when you don't know how to configure the notifications and basically customize the settings for your needs, it can really turn people off quite quickly. So decreasing the volume and being able to customize that is very important, and finding things quickly. Where's that thing? I think for myself, having everything on Teams now, I've been struggling with finding conversations and chats and stuff. Someone chat me and I'll do something else, and then where was that thing? How do you find that thing quickly, whether it's a document, whether it's a conversation? So these are some of the points that we'll cover. So jumping straight in here. So this is actually our Engage Squared Teams. I don't think there's anything sensitive on here, but if there is, I apologise. I think we're pretty well behaved at Engage Squared, so I think we'll be okay. So we're looking at Teams here as the sort of the main screen. We're in the Teams tab from the side, and as you can see, it's sort of quite busy. And when we're talking about that volume, that curating your notifications, I just want to point out some key tips. So from your profile in the top right hand corner, going down to settings, and then selecting notifications. From here, you can customize all the different ways that people interact with you and how you're notified across them. So dropping these down, you can have sort of increasing that volume to the max. You can receive an email on every single interaction that happens across Teams, which which will ensure that you don't sort of miss anything. On the flip side of that, sort of decreasing that noise, you can actually turn that notification off. We wouldn't recommend turning things off. We would recommend showing in feed. So basically how this breaks down is a banner and an email is a pop-up that comes in the bottom right hand corner that says so-and-so's messaged you or so-and-so's mentioned you. And then an email goes through to your inbox. A banner is just that pop-up. Showing feed just rolls up into your activity feed in the top left-hand corner. I'll jump into that in a second. And off is completely off. So I would never say turn things off. I'd say show in feed, because then you have a log of who's trying to contact you and message you from there. A few tips from here as well. You can manage status notifications. So you have a status in Teams, which is active, available, or busy, or away, or in a meeting. You can, if you have a key person that maybe it's your manager, or maybe it's a colleague that you talk to a lot, you can pop their name in here, and you can turn on a notification for when they're next available. So you'll get a little pop up in the bottom right hand corner to show you when they're next available. So if they're busy, they come out of a meeting, you get a prompt and you can message them straight away. So that's a nice one to sort of cut through the noise. As well, from the privacy setting here, you can manage priority access. So just to sort of recap in terms of the status up here, I'm presenting at the moment, so it's automatically put me on do not disturb, which will sort of deflect any messages that come in. Available, busy, be right back, and that will update automatically depending on your calendar from Outlook. If you have a manager and you want to give somebody priority access to message you, you can give them priority access from here. So I'll just pop in Jonathan from here, and then he will actually have access to be able to message me when I'm on do not disturb, which is a handy tip from there. So should say as well, red receipts are a new update to Microsoft Teams. You can turn these off. This basically shows you, very similar to sort of WhatsApp or other sort of consumer application, when a colleague has read your messages. So you can turn that off if you don't want them to snoop just while that's there. So settings from the top right hand corner, click on notifications and pick out what works best for you in terms of your notifications, and so you can either turn that volume up or down.
Jack, I think there's something to also add to that notifications settings is it's good to have a discussion with your team also around what your team has agreed to turn on or off. For example, you don't want, some members of your team might rely on using channel mentions while others might have turned that off. Personal mentions is generally the safest bet if you want to get in contact with someone, because you can't turn it off. If you just go down to that drop down, you can see that you only have the 3 options. So that's probably your best bet, but it's always best practice to agree on with your team what you should have turned on and off. I think, Jack, don't you think? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think all of the topics that we covered today are great by themselves, but they only really work when you have that team agreement. Absolutely, and it's a good point to make, because if you're doing one thing and everyone else is doing another thing, then you don't really get that continuity with your workflow, and people will miss things. So yeah, it's an important point, definitely. So that's making sure your notifications are up to date. There's another one actually as well in terms of notifications. You can select channel notifications. So if the scenario is that the communications plan is of paramount importance to me, and regardless of how I'm sort of regardless of the activity that happens in this team, if I want to be notified across everything that happens in this team, I can select channel notifications, and I can get notifications for everything that happens in that channel. So that's a good one. That's a good one as well. You can also turn it off. So depending on, again, whether you want to turn that noise on or off is key. So notifications, turn the volume up or down from there. Finding information. So I spoke to someone then, or I was working on a document, but I can't find it now because, as you can see on the left-hand side, I've got lots of teams and I've got competing priorities that I need to sift through. There's a few ways you can find what you need. The filtering the teams from the side here is really important. I'll come to that in a minute, but I definitely think leveraging the search bar at the top is the most valuable way to find what you need quickly. So if I just run I'll just literally run a quick test search. I'll search test and I'll select that from the top. This will search across all of my private messages and my Teams channel messages. So I can find what I need quickly. I can quite heavily filter this from here, from the drop downs, and it will also index that message. So depending on where it came in that message, where that sort of keyword search is, it will pull up from here. It will search people also, and it will also search files. And this is great. This is really handy for finding information that's buried within OneNotes, within your OneNote notebook, or in a document, or wherever it may be. That's the power of that search, really sort of searching within the document. So really key from there. So definitely leverage the search bar at the top. There's a bunch of quick / commands here as well. So you can do some really quick. You can set your status very quickly. You can get a sort of a list of all the shortcuts. You can mention somebody and talk to somebody within this search bar at the top. So you can use it as a message bar, which can be really handy as well if you want to talk to somebody quickly from there. So the activity feed here is really handy. So this rolls up by time order all the activity that has taken place within your system, so all the stuff you have access to. So if you need to find something quickly, this can be really handy. So it's all the replies, all the channel messages, all the actions, and from here you can filter. So if you select the filter button and then the drop down, you can select, for example, only @mentions. So you might say, okay, there's lots of noise in my team. I'm being inundated working from home. I just want to see who's @mentioning me, and because they're sort of actions on me, so I can reply to those very quickly. So filtering and searching can be a great way to cut the noise and to find information quickly. Great. Jumping back, and we've done a little recap here. We'll distribute this afterwards. We'll distribute this after and sort of build that into the work from home survival pack that we're creating as well. So so you have access to that afterwards. So next one, prioritizing workloads. So there's too many locations for all of your stuff. Which tool when is a phrase that's used a lot. So when do I use what for when? Where do things live? Who do I talk to? Who? Where? And it's important to sort of note when you're making the transition over to Microsoft Teams that it's a big behavior change. We're going from an inbox on a traditionally from an inbox on Outlook or another email sort of platform. It's sort of very reactive. It's a very sort of linear way to respond to messages. It sort of comes in one way and it sort of goes out the other. You're constantly sort of having to react to things as they come in. When we shift over to Microsoft Teams, what it allows you to do is it empowers you to prioritize your workloads. So you can actually say, okay, these particular topics are most relevant to me. I will prioritize those over the water cooler chat or the other less important pieces of information and communication. So it's a tough one to sort of negotiate, but that behavior change over to Teams allows you to take control. So team locations, and then limit context switching. What we're trying to, or what sort of I think the goal is having Teams as a hub. I've called it a shop front, a front door. Basically, it's a nice sort of tangible platform that sort of plugs in all of your Office 365 applications and third-party applications as well. So, if you're using Jira, if you're using Confluence, if you're using, a Trello board or or an Adobe application, you can plug those in as well and prioritize those based on what you need. So just jumping back into Teams and sort of exploring sort of what that sort of looks like and how it translates. The left hand side of my Teams is very busy at the moment. So, I've got a bunch of teams there, a bunch of channels that are showing. This might not reflect my true priority from here. So there's a few tips and tricks that you can do. You have teams that are shown. So if I select from here, I can see a hide button, and basically what that does is that will group teams together under a hidden sort of drop down. Why would you hide a team? Why do you need to be a member of a team if you want to hide it? Well, you might need to stay across some of the content. You might need to access some of that content. You might need to check in at the end of the month because you need to be part of a sales call or a strategy check-in. So you might not want to leave the team, but it might not be a priority for you. You might only check in, once a week or even less. So you might want to hide a team. So if you want to hide a team, you can select hide and it will drop it quite nicely under here, and then you can sort of start focusing on what you need to, on what's most important for you. You do the same with channels. So from here in our Engage Squared channel, there's a bunch of hidden channels of topics that I'm not a part of. So they're different teams, they're different packs, they're different offices, they're different things. I don't sort of need to stay across those, so I'm not sort of going to show those. If I wanted to, I can select show, maybe document templates. I'll sort of use a lot, and I'll select that one here. So make sure that you configure your left-hand side Teams rail from here. You can also minimize them from here. I mean, I quite like keeping it neat. So this is very enjoyable for me when you sort of make that as neat as possible. You can drag and drop sort of from here as well. And then if you have some key topic areas, so maybe it's communications plan, let's just say, you can select pin, and this will pin that channel as a priority at the top again, so leaving you with that sort of top level priority from there. And then you can sort of make sure you're not sort of distracted, which I often am, by all of these lovely red notification icons at the side. They're created that way to get your attention. So it's nice that you can be able to sort of minimize other things and sort of focus your attention. We'll talk about tools and sort of the visibility of the applications that you use within a team. So this is my communications plan channel. Within a channel, you have the option at the top to add in what we call tabs, and these can be other applications, other tools, or even websites that you can add in and have access to with your team. So from here, you can add a document in, a PowerPoint, maybe it's a sort of a strategy deck that needs some sort of exposure across the whole team, or maybe it's a planner, so you can visually track tasks and whatnot. So you can pin your key tools at the top from here. I don't know what we've got here. I think I've got one from here. Yeah, so I've got one from here, market research, bit of a demo one, and I've got I've got sort of maybe some competitor websites at the top that I want to just to stay across. You can sort of customize that from here. So this can be great for new starters when you consciously tag in all of the various different tools that they need to access. Maybe it's a sort of a new starter channel, and it's a expenses tab, and then it's a HR policies tab, or the page that directs to the intranet. So you can really start to customize these tabs to make sure you're not hunting down for other locations and other places from there. Great. So make sure you tag prioritize your teams and channels. Pick and agree, going back to that agreement that we said before, agree on those applications with your team. What takes priority? What do we want to have quick access to at the top? And sort of add those in. And also sort of limiting context switching. So Teams is a great platform to collaborate with your colleagues and to work on both documents and other applications collaboratively. So working together on shared things. But it's also a great platform to be able to access your applications and your content. So what does that mean? I'll show you from the side here. So selecting files, I actually have access to my OneDrive. So from here, without having to go to the browser version, or maybe down to my OneDrive client at the bottom, I can actually quickly access all of my folders and files from here, and then I can move some documents across to specific teams if I want to from there. You could also, and this is a relatively new feature, pin applications to the side of your left-hand rail from here. So maybe I'll pin my OneNote, and maybe I'll pin my planner, because I want to track my tasks and see my notes. What you can also do is admins, Microsoft Teams admins can default add applications and links to that left-hand rail now. So maybe the scenario is, you have your expenses tab on the side, you have your HR portal on the side as well. You can really sort of start customizing that. Raven is an internal project monitoring Power App, so that's sort of been tagged there on the left. But I've tagged my OneDrive and my planner, and from here I can access my personal OneNote. So tagged my OneNote on the side, and I can access my personal notes. So I don't need to jump out. I mean, I have got at the bottom here, I have got my OneNote application. I love using OneNote, but I can also access that through here. So pinning that on the side, these are my personal notes, and then I can see all of my different notebooks from here, all of my different sections, and I can have access to those, and I can track my recent activity from there as well. Similarly with Planner, what this will do is, you might be in a bunch of plans, and so staying across all of your different plans, you might have different tasks for different plans for different projects, can be quite hard to stay across those tasks from different plans. My tasks from Planner rolls all of them up. So you can see here there's different, that's survival kit, internal project planner, adoption, T100. These are all different tasks from all my different plans. So I can get a bird's eye view from there, which I think is great. And having it pinned to the side can be really handy from there. And then sort of going down and talking about those third-party applications, actually plugging in. I mentioned before Trello. We have, if DevOps, you can really look through and customize those applications if they are, cleared, enterprise sort of cleared applications, and you have licenses for them. Then you can plug those in, and it can be really handy for you. So that's sort of the prioritizing your workloads, both your team workloads, but also your personal content and your personal workloads from there. So, and we've done a little recap there again, as we'll distribute that out. Great. Communicating with colleagues. So this is more important, more pertinent now than ever. We can't sort of just call across the divider or wait for lunch or for a coffee. We have to be courteous and cognizant that we have to respect other people's time and communicate effectively. So we need to understand where we're posting, where we're talking to them. Are they going to see what they need to see? Are you going to reach the right person? How do I contact that person? So we'll be jumping into app mentions, and then communicate. Then there's the courtesy piece with the communication. How are we going to effectively communicate as a team? Again, agreeing those principles is key up top, so we can all work in the same way. So in terms of picking where you post in Teams, you have teams and channels where you discuss projects and topics. Channels are best described as topic streams within a team. So a team is a group of people that work together with a common goal that's being solved. We work team, or it might be a project team that comes together. And then channels are topic streams that logical topic streams within that. Just a tip in terms of channels: you don't want to proliferate channels. If you've just started a team, you don't want to sort of second guess what everybody needs to sort of what all the topics are and create 5 or 6, because you don't want to get to a place where you're confused about where to message, because then it's not a good place. So start small and start with the main topics, the main points, and build them out if there's if they're getting a bit noisy or if the need presents itself. So just about sort of best practice, really, have all of your project chat in your channel. So have conversations around your topic here. It's very tempting sort of instantly message your colleagues from here, sort of in that sort of one-on-one chat, but you can very quickly blur the lines between what's a private chat, what's a and what's a project chat. So I think when we're working from home, where possible, have a conversation in a channel if it's got anything to do with a project. And I think that has, the value in that is, even if it's what are the logins for that client, or what are the, even if it's sort of a menial question or a menial sort of conversation, I think it has value in the channel, because then that's where it lives. The frustration that can start setting in is where is that piece of information? Where did I have a chat about it? Did I have a conversation about it? No. So to set these principles within your team is key, as well in terms of best practice with actual conversations themselves. I messaged this earlier, asking for a review on a document, and then Jonathan and Chelsea replied from here. Chelsea's messaged under this, but basically what happens is, if I wanted to reply to Chelsea's message, I need to hit reply, because then we can keep that thread going, and we can keep all of the back and forth around that particular, we're talking about survey here, so okay, yeah, great, I'll fill that in, and we can keep talking about the survey from here. It's very easy to do. The UI is sort of a bit confusing. It's quite easy to sort of start another conversation, and that's what's called breaking the thread. And it's a really simple but really frustrating sort of behavior that sort of seems to be a teething pain for when users are using Teams. So just think about some sort of continuity about your posting. Where are you posting? Is it the right channel? Is it the right team? Keep the thread going. Maybe don't instantly chat. It doesn't matter if the rest of the team see what you're talking about, because it might provide value for them, and they might not have to ask that same question again. So we're talking about that sort of transparency, which is key. In terms of reaching the right person, I just want to talk about app mentioning, because there's a few things you can do with app mentions, and it can be very beneficial when you want to get someone's attention. So we've already discussed app mentioning a person. So if I want to app mention Chelsea, maybe I want her to review a document, or I need an action from her. Maybe I need a review by the end of the day on something. I'll app mention her specifically, and then I can continue that message. Can you review? And then I might add something in from here. What might I add in? I can just run a sheet from here. We can communicate backwards. So that's sort of app mentioning a person. You have a few other ways to app mention. You can also app mention a whole channel. So if you select at, and then I'll type in communications plan as the channel, I can app mention them so everybody within that channel knows that I need a review, or maybe it's a topic specific conversation or update. So if everybody relating to comms needs to know something, I can app mention the channel, which could be handy to sort of get visibility across that groups of people. Or I can app mention a whole team. So I can app mention the marketing demo team, and then that will notify everybody across the team. Maybe it's more important. Maybe it's an urgent update, or something everybody needs to be across. We're in an urgent time, so making sure the right people hear the right thing is important more now than ever. So app mentioning people, channels, and teams, really handy. There's also another great way to make sure you're reaching the right people within your team. So selecting manage team from here, this is the demo team we've got going. There's something called tags. So basically what you can do is, there's only 4 of us in this team, but if there's 40 and that team is geographically dispersed across the whole of Australia, you have offices in maybe Perth, Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne, and you want to tailor some messaging, so you don't want to bombard everybody, you can create tags. So you can select manage tags, and then you can create a new tag. And I've done a sort of a demo here about sort of location is sort of a good use case that I straight off the block use. But this can also be a job type, or a skill set, or there's a few different scenarios from here. And what this allows you to do is get to the people that need to hear it. It can prevent you actually making additional channels or additional teams to actually get that messaging across. So tags are really relatively new feature in Teams, and is a really handy one from there. So the last one there was sort of communicating with courtesy. So this is sort of best practice, really. If somebody asks for something, as Chelsea has perfectly demonstrated here, respond immediately. With Teams, we don't necessarily know who's working on what. So just very quickly responding and saying, I'm looking at that, or I haven't got any time, at mentioning somebody else, and just being very active and proactive on with the communications can be really handy. It can save time and minimize duplication. It goes with sort of liking and reacting to posts, just to show that you've read it and you understand. And also, maybe instead of having a conversation, maybe instead of having a private message, just have a call instead. Just have an ad hoc call, either video or audio if needs be, and get to the point quicker. Great. That is the communicating with colleagues section. And recap here. Just conscious of time, I want to cover this section because it's pretty it's a pretty important one, as I said, business critical moving forward. Everything is now taking place in this virtual meeting space. So optimizing setup, it's very important that you do the due diligence on with regards to your connection and your bandwidth at home for these meetings, as I'm sure you may have already experienced. Have video on where possible. So if the bandwidth starts to fail and the quality starts reducing, turn other videos off and then yourself. So I'll jump into the meetings section in a minute and just run through that. Meeting life cycle. So meetings don't just happen in the hour that you've allotted the time. The tools and the features that Microsoft actually give you on the platform, the meeting has a beginning and an end. It's a whole sort of life cycle. You chat before, you have the meeting, and then you follow up afterwards, and it allows you to track that from there. And stay socially connected. A meeting doesn't have to be a meeting. You can just chat and get work done. So I'm just gonna go on here. So in the virtual meetings section. So from here we can see Jonathan and Chelsea from here. I can turn off my camera if there's quality issues. I can also turn off other videos, and I can pin particular users to the screen as well. Getting the camera right, I've sort of got a light sort of shining right on me at the moment. It feels like I'm sort of on stage, and I've got the blur behind. But having the eyes sort of 3/4 of the way up the screen is optimal. And then looking in the direction of the camera is also favourable as well. Mute when you're not talking. Just always do it as a best practice. It's just courteous to the presenter, and unmute if you have a question, and then mute again. I've got my background blurred from here. There's not actually much to see behind me. It's just sort of foam. It's just a padded cell that I'm currently in. Nobody can hear me screaming here. But blur if you're at home. If you've got any sensitive stuff back on the walls. Cool. One thing I just wanted to point out from here is if you're new to virtual meetings and you have got a bit of a setup, you've got a webcam, you've got a mic, you've got a headset, and you wanted to test what the setup is before, and before you jump onto that important meeting, you can / and you can say test call, and I won't click on it because it will put you on hold. What that will do is that will call what's called an echo bot. So it will call an automated bot. You'll be able to see yourself. You'll be able to talk into your microphone, and you'll be able to play that back to you. So you can see what the experience is like and see what the reception is like, which I think is a really handy tool from there. Great. Meeting lifecycle. Very quickly, I wanted to sort of talk about that before, during, and after sort of cycle of a meeting. So this is in the Microsoft Teams calendar view. This is sort of an updated user experience. We have a bunch of extra features. If you haven't seen this in a while, got a nice rich scheduling assistant from here as well. Details of the meeting. We can share files from into here. So if there's any pertinent or important documents that we want to cover or sort of review in this session, we can. And then chatting. So when you create here we go here. So we've got lots of questions, which is great. We can chat backwards and forwards in this space. So we can chat even before the meeting. I think we were chatting before. Here we go. And we were discussing what was going to take place from here. When we finish this meeting, this chat window will still be open, and we can continue that conversation. And then we'll actually be able to see the recording of this webinar, which will be posted into this chat. So really being able to stay across all the content. You have a meeting notes section here. This is just a very quick way to just sort of scribe meeting minutes. I personally prefer using a OneNote because it's searchable, like we saw before. We can share it out to other colleagues and team members as well. So I quite like using OneNote. And then Whiteboard, which is a fantastic application where you can, and this is perfect for your online sort of digital workshops and brainstorming sessions, if it works for me. That's oh, here we go, fantastic. So you're at home and you've got a creative workshop, or you've got you have something where you have a meeting where you need to brainstorm ideas, and that's a core part of what a lot of people do. I know it is for us. So having a space where everybody can see what you're drawing and what you're sort of articulating is a great way, and Whiteboard's a great way to do that. So this is basically, everybody within this, everybody should have access to this from here. We were drawing some pictures earlier. Oh, here we go. We can all sort of contribute to this, and it's a great way to bridge the gap between virtual and digital and analog from here. Just quickly on this, I can, if I select open in app, I've actually got the Whiteboard application. So this is, I'll just show you. So from here, it might be worth downloading it. Microsoft Whiteboard. It will bring up all of my previous whiteboards. So all of the whiteboards, all of the meetings that I've had, and I can click here. It's already saved it, and I can see here that we've been editing it here, and maybe and then I have the option to add somebody in to this whiteboard who wasn't in the meeting. So you're not taking pictures of whiteboards and sending images, and you're keeping that creativity going by sharing live documents and being able to collaborate on those. So I really like the whiteboard application. Wonderful. Look, we're sort of coming to the end of our time. I think that's really everything I wanted to capture today. It's just giving it's some of those tips and tricks and best practices for everyone, and I hope that you learned something new, and if not, it was a good refresher around some of the features. So it's great to see that there's so many people on the call. We did have some time for some questions. I think Jonathan, have you been sort of answering them as you go, or where?
Yeah, I have. They've been quite specific questions, so I think something I thought we could cover, showed people, is just how to forward emails into channels, also in terms of how to manage that noise, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
so
sure,
we see a lot of customers who might have to manage an inbox as well as a Microsoft Teams at the same time, but a way to kind of show maybe work you're working on or communications with an external party. You can forward emails into a Teams chat. So Jack can just show you how that's something you're interested. Yeah.
Absolutely, and that's the bridging the gap as well. When you're sort of straddling the two platforms, and you want to try, and you're trying to increase adoption as well over, you can send emails into channels. So you can, if you select the three dots, you can actually get the email address of that channel. So you can copy that. If I jump over into my inbox from here, I can obviously create a new email or forward, select one to sort of forward, and then paste in that channel email from there. Or you can, and this, there's a nicer way to do this. There's going to be a really lovely sort of sexy way to just send. There's going to be a Teams plugin at the top, and you'll be able to just send forward emails directly to the team. You'll be able to have a drop down, and that's coming soon. In void of that, you can create a custom quick step, which is if you drop that one down and you select new and you go forward to, maybe this is and we'll say comms teams channel, and then you can paste in that email address there, select finish, select OK, and then you can, when you just select on that email, you can select that button and it will instantly populate that to address bar with the team, with the channel email address. You can just send it straight in, and then you'll see that when it comes through. It will take a minute or so. So yeah, it's a good one about it's a good point about bridging that gap between the old and the new, basically, while we're in this stage of flux.
Yeah, and all replies and communications here won't be sent to the original sender, so you may want to manage that separately back in Outlook. But you can definitely collaborate around emails that people have sent you.
Yeah,
and also I believe the emails directly saved in the Files tab as well. If you need a way to quickly get your emails into SharePoint as well, it's a good way to do so.
Yeah, and it will capture them in there. So yeah, you can view the original from there as well. Thanks for that, Jonathan.
No worries.
So yeah, if there's no sort of, is there any themes of questions, Jonathan? Is there anything sort of coming up time and time again? What's the sort of?
Not really. If you could give an example, we had a question around when would you recommend an individual chat compared to an @mention post? Yeah.
Yes, okay, so that's great. So when we're talking about chatting, so in our chat window, we need to know something now. So it's a non-work related need to know now. So examples would be where we're going for lunch, or we're sort of talking about sort of non-project stuff is the way that we categorize it. What's the difference between an instant chat and an @mention? An @mention is an action around a project. So you want them, or a project or a topic. So you need somebody to do something for you, and @mentioning them in the channel is categorizing it under that topic. So it's easy for not only you to see, but also it's the transparency across the team. Somebody can and it's all about that passively seeing what is happening in a team, so that other person won't chase that up. They know that it's being taken care of. If you can work in a transparent way, you take a lot of load off of that searching for content, searching for answers, searching for people. You can see the work taking place and you can follow the thread. Great. If there's if there's no other questions, thank you very much for joining today. As I said, we'll be running these every 2 weeks. We have a lot of ideas. The next one's on the 16th of April. Please come along to that one, and we'll also watch out for the work from home survival pack. So thank you very much. I've been Jack. We've been Engaged Squared. Hope to see you again.
Thanks, everyone. I'm sorry. We just had one more question from.
What do you have? We have another question.
Do we know if Teams works in Safari? I don't use Safari.
Yes, so on Mac. That is a good question. I'm not sure if it's supported in Safari. Maybe that's worth a quick Google.
Yeah, I know our graphics designer uses it, so you may need to download the desktop app.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Mars might run it through the desktop app, but not Safari itself. Yeah, sorry about that.
Very good. Thanks a lot. Hope to see you again. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.